saying last week that the Venezuelan regime of Nicolas Maduro is actually not that bad because they're being attacked by, in his words, globo homo.
I want to talk about something that's been bursting on the internet. It's actually been for a couple months. I've addressed it a little bit, but it seems to be burning a little hotter right now, particularly over the last 2 weeks, because Tucker Carlson interviewed this kid by the name of Nick Fuentes, and he is an online creator, commentator, whatever, who basically comes from what they call the alt-right, the far-right, whatever. I don't even care about the labels. He is a Nazi supporter. He is someone who has talked about how he admires Hitler, admires Stalin, goes after the Jews relentlessly, goes after black people relentlessly, goes after Indians relentlessly, all of those things. Okay, fine. He's gone after me a gajillion times. If I'm not mistaken, maybe I mentioned him on the show for the first time on Friday. It just doesn't matter. Okay, fine. Tucker had him on his show 2 weeks ago and really gave him a very, very softball interview. Now, Tucker, like me, is entitled to interview anyone he wants. He can platform whoever he wants, and I would argue he can interview him however he wants. But in a time when there's a million of us out there all doing somewhat of the same thing, people then are allowed to criticize you for it. People are allowed to call you out on your nonsense, just like you call other people out on their nonsense. People can call me out and I can call them out. That's the free exchange of ideas. That's what free speech is all about. Anyway, about 2 weeks ago, Tucker puts this kid on. It blows up online because a lot of people on the right, unlike the left that usually just goes to its worst place always, and no one, as I always quote Jordan Peterson, when does the left go too far? No one on the left will ever say it. Well, anyway, Nick goes on Tucker's show, and a lot of people called out Tucker. I did not hear anyone calling for Tucker to be kicked off YouTube or kicked off X or anything else, but they criticized him. Well, then, this is all fortuitous because Megyn is on tour, and basically 2 days after she had Tucker on, she happened to have Ben on. I'm sure the tour was laid out way in advance of that, so she didn't know that any of this was coming. She then has Ben on, and listen to Ben take a slightly different tack at going after your intellectual opponents.
These are not arguments. This is not a person who's making arguments. He is a Hitler-loving troll, and I say that advisedly. He literally says on his show that he loves Adolf Hitler. Okay, so the reason this has come up in recent weeks is because Tucker, your guest last night, decided to have him on last week and to completely gloss him, in my opinion. And you can make up your own opinion as to what you think Tucker was doing during that interview, but I know what it looks like when Tucker Carlson decides to be an aggressive interviewer, when he decides to ask difficult questions of people. Tucker is eminently capable of doing that. He did it to Ted Cruz quite thoroughly. But he decided for any number of reasons, and I try not to attribute motivations to people, that he was going to treat Fuentes with kid gloves, that he was going to not ask him about any of the things that I've just mentioned, literally any of them, and to essentially normalize Fuentes, act as a sort of gateway drug or as what I've called Tucker, as an ideological launderer of bad ideas over the last couple of years. The real question is, for me, I got into this business because I care about the ideas and I care about the ideals. And so when you're determining what is conservatism, what should the future of America look like, and where do you draw the lines, those are the questions that I need to answer in my job. For me, my business is really not about friendship. I have lots of friends, people who I love, with whom I disagree on politics and don't believe they should be leaders in the conservative movement, for example.
I have to say, while I hope you tune in more to the Rubin Report than the Ben Shapiro show, that is Ben at his absolute finest. He did several things there. He said, you can make up your own opinion. He then gives credit to Tucker as an interviewer. He has seen Tucker do interviews, quote unquote, properly, right? He then says, I try not to attribute motives to people. So he goes out of his way to do every caveat around all of this. I think just as I have done here. And then what does he do? Then he says, you can decide as to what Tucker did. And his conclusion is that he is laundering in these bad ideas. And I think, not only do I think that is true, I think that actually kind of explains Tucker's response in the clip that we just showed you. When Megyn says, well, why didn't you, in essence, your critics are saying, why didn't you interview him a little separately? Well, go do your own interview. Go do your own interview. And it's like, again, I'm granting you that you can do the interview whatever you want, but why not listen to a little bit of criticism? Do you agree with any of those things or not? You're very upset that I guess Fuentes went after your dad. Well, he has said far worse things about me, right? And I don't even care. I don't need Tucker Carlson to defend me. Anyway, show you another one, because then one of the things that came up is that Tucker also, not only has he done no shows criticizing Mamdani, he has done many shows, every show basically is going after Israel and the Jews. He does nothing about Mamdani, he barely goes after the left anymore, sort of glazes or glosses most of the lefty socialist stuff, including Nicolas Maduro. And here is Megyn asking Ben about that.
Two, saying last week that the Venezuelan regime of Nicolas Maduro is actually not that bad because they're being attacked by, in his words, globo homo.
Tucker's made the point, I'm not going to here to be Tucker's defender, but he's made the point that Maduro is culturally conservative.
Who gives a The guy's a communist dictator. Everyone in his country is eating dog. He's shipping fentanyl to the United States to kill Americans. Why do I give a whether he's anti-LGBTQ rights? This is the number one thing about Nicolas Maduro. You know how far down the list you have to get before you can get to anything remotely recommendable about Nicolas Maduro?
I did.
Yeah. Again, Ben is right. And whether Megyn is acting, Megyn, who I love and adore, whether she is acting as Tucker's lawyer there or not. I mean, Megyn, you have a ton of gay friends. I know that for a fact, right? So it's like, why would you even feel the need to defend Tucker when he's defending the guy who's defending the world against globo homo? He's culturally conservative. All right, I know for a fact you don't think that that's great.